Hi, welcome back to another edition of the Coach's Corner. With me, as always, Clayton Holford and special guest and friend of the show, Isaac. Today, we will be reviewing the Miami Dolphins versus Fidel's Las Vegas Raiders. Was this the most Raiders way to end a game? I mean, just when you think, we're still alive for the playoffs, and then the Miami Dolphins. Not the same Miami Dolphins from last year, but the 2020-2021 Miami Dolphins. What are you guys' opinion?
Well, I think Vegas already kind of lost hope for the playoffs going into this. Yeah, there was like a long shot of them making it in, but this was definitely a game that they wanted to go in and prove that they can beat the playoff type teams and show that they're deserving of being a playoff team in the future. And we just see it over and over again. They underperform. They give up the lead in the Raider fashion, like you said. I'm sure if Fidel was on here, he'd have a lot more to say. But I'm sure that, most Raiders fans are not shocked by this. And to see that Dolphins team come out with a victory when Vegas had so many chances to just lock it up, to seal the victory, it's a shame. I'm not a Raiders fan, but I felt bad, for that whole fan base and that team just because of how it ended.
Yeah, I'm a John Gruden fan, and I like Mike Mayock too. Both those guys, I like Gruden back in the Tampa Bay days, except for when he played the Vikings, of course. But Monday Night Football, I liked him, and then on NFL Network, I love Mike Mayock on there. So I'm a fan of them. I like Hunter Renfrow. I mean, I don't think there's a guy out there that doesn't appreciate Hunter Renfrow, but I felt for the Raiders too. But then on the flip side of things, you have the Dolphins, where it's just kind of like they've unless you're a really, really old school Dolphins fan, like if you were a millennial, you have not enjoyed your time as a Miami Dolphin fan. And yeah. I think they're kind of trending in the right direction. I know we talked about it a little bit before we started recording this, but the way that they've been able to kind of rebuild their roster and some of the deals that they made, for example, the Minka Fitzpatrick trade, I think some people were like, that's a cornerstone defensive piece there. But the fact that they were able to actually draft well is for some people might be, kind of shocking. So I like the way this team's going.
Yeah, there's only one thing that kind of worries me through all this, and we've already seen it a couple times. I think Justin already knows what I'm going to say is, what the heck's going on with Tua? Why is Tua getting benched? Oh, it gives us the best shot to win. You're taking away an opportunity for growth from your young quarterback. Now, granted, you draft Tua, you put him in these situations. You took the team away from Ryan Fitzpatrick to give to Tua, but now we're doing this back and forth thing.
It's
Something's
working.
Not right.
It's working.
Something's
They're winning.
Not right, though.
It's not long term. I get it's not long term, but I know these are just statistics. We look at them a lot. Well, when you're 17 of 22, you'd think a guy would have at least 100 yards passing. I think Tua's biggest problem is he doesn't want to make that mistake. He doesn't want to risk driving the ball downfield because I think he doesn't want to insult his coach's intelligence. Because at Alabama, he played under Nick Saban, who's a defensive-minded guy, but you're playing college defenses. So you have guys like, first-round pick last year, you're Jerry Jeudy, Clayton. And then you have, Jalen Waddle and Smith. You have all these studs that you're throwing to. And you're playing against, like I said, college defenses. I mean, there's definitely NFL guys on those defenses, but they're not all NFL guys. In addition to that, Brian Flores is a defensive-minded coach, and they want to protect the football, play defense. And I think by doing that, he kind of reminds me with these numbers. I'll just say it: 17 to 22, 94 yards and 1 touchdown. He reminds me a lot of Teddy Bridgewater. When Teddy Bridgewater was a Viking, Mike Zimmer's a defensive guy. He never wanted to insult the intelligence of his coach by going out and throwing picks. So rather, he just wanted to manage the game. And I think a lot, if you watch this game, especially the first drive, Tua was dinking and dunking the ball, which there's nothing wrong with that. You never go broke taking a profit, but when you have to pay your all your bills that are, thousands of dollars, and, you're taking your profit of, $2, $3 here, nickel and diming it, you're not going to necessarily win. You're not going to be the reason necessarily why your team loses, because you're not turning the football over, but you're never going to win the big game doing that. And I think that's why Ryan Fitzpatrick they bring in, because Ryan Fitzpatrick, 9 of 13, 182 and 1 touchdown. And we were talking about this before the show. Why is it that, Ryan Fitzpatrick, is he good? Is he bad? Why is he good sometimes? Why is he bad? We were talking about this, before the show. When you throw expectation and money at Ryan Fitzpatrick, he plays poorly because he plays all tight. But if he comes in as your backup, or if he comes in as a lame, quote unquote, lame duck quarterback that's just sitting there a year so you can tank to draft a new quarterback, he's great because he has no expectation. He can go out and he can throw for 5 touchdowns one week and 4 picks the next week, and he's still going to be your starting quarterback.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Isaac.
I don't necessarily agree with the whole situation at quarterback right now. I thought the first time that they did it was a good time to do it. Tua was playing bad. Fitzpatrick came in and won the game. Start Tua, but to do it, what is this, the third time that we've seen this? This has got to be, hitting Tua mentally. Like it's not good for his mental health right now, because he probably knows that he is not the best quarterback on this team when that team puts Fitzpatrick in and he watches another guy win the game for him. So I think what they originally should have done is what Andy Reid did with Alex Smith, and have Patrick Mahomes, take that first year, learn. They knew Smith was going to leave. They know Fitzpatrick's not the future. So just why throw Tua in there when Fitzpatrick was already winning games, playing well, on the right path to the playoffs, and then to kind of just mess up the whole situation. And Tua's had, credit to him, he's had a couple good games, but he's been benched 3 times now. So I don't think it's right to bench him like this. I think if they are going to stick with Tua, they need to stick with Tua.
Yeah, I think I've talked about it on here before. Like you said, just the brief glimpse into what a quarterback has to deal with on a per play basis, the responsibility on their shoulder. A lot of times, often the face of a city and a franchise. To put and Isaac, you've seen this happen with your team this year. What happened as soon as Mitchell Trubisky saw Nick Foles enter the quarterback room? He felt it. It was palpable. He was playing tight. He gets benched. He comes back. He's playing like a new quarterback. He's got confidence. Hey, I could do this, right? And you see it happen all the time. When as soon as they feel Carson Wentz and Jalen Hurts, another great example. Jalen Hurts comes to town. Carson Wentz is a completely different guy than the dude we've been seeing playing football in Philly for the past few years. So, like you said, to your credit, Tua is now seeing Ryan Fitzpatrick, and he's going, oh, man, this isn't good. And he's young. He doesn't need that weighing on him. Another thing is you look at the reference you made, Justin, is Teddy Bridgewater. That's the comp. Teddy Bridgewater is an outstanding human being. He was a fantastic college quarterback. You know what's going to happen to Teddy Bridgewater this offseason? They're going to draft his replacement because he's only got 15 touchdowns in Carolina with all those weapons.
Well, that's what he had that year in Minnesota too.
Right. So if you just spent Tua to be the pick of your franchise, okay, and he's going to lead you guys to the postseason and give you all this success. If your comp is Teddy Bridgewater, and Teddy Bridgewater's already been phased out because he's never gone past the game manager role, what does that say about Tua? Is Tua the right guy here? And I'm starting to have those concerns. I don't want to overreact because it's a rookie. There's a lot of things that can happen, but there's warning signs here that if you want to, you can read into and say, I don't like the direction this is heading. We gotta turn this around before it's too late, because, like I said, Teddy Bridgewater has had a fantastic career. He's made more money this year than I probably will in the next 30 years. Fantastic human, done a lot for all the cities he's been to. Nobody has a bad word to say about it. But it's like, as a professional NFL quarterback, he's proven he's not really the guy. And that's alarming that the first choice you chose whenever you pulled Teddy Bridgewater out of the air. Teddy's a great backup.
And the reason why I pulled that name was because Teddy was a guy, and I could be wrong here, but I think that if Teddy Bridgewater doesn't get hurt, I think he was finally ready to start taking shots downfield, because I don't think, and everybody saw this, he didn't have the biggest arm. But that offseason go before the injury, he put on like 10 pounds of muscle and he looked bigger. There was more zip on the football. But then he got hurt, and perhaps we'll never know. It's just one of those things that we're just not meant to know. But
Right.
The reason why I picked that was because there were times when Teddy Bridgewater was a Viking where it's just like, throw the ball, like the dude was open, but he was just trigger happy or shy, rather. He would always want to take the profit rather than sometimes taking the risk, because there's always going to be that risk. But I think the reason, I think also, talking about, Tua's, the mental aspect of this with Tua, I just think that Ryan Fitzpatrick and Tua, they just have a connection as a starter and backup that most other quarterbacks don't. And I think a fair one that you could kind of use is Dwayne Haskins. He's kind of the polar opposite of how quarterbacks can react to being sat, whether it be for the second half of a game, being benched, whatever you want to call it. I think that Ryan Fitzpatrick and Tua are both so happy for one another, and you see it on camera, but I think it's genuine. I think they're competitors. They both want to play, but I think they both legitimately want to see each other succeed. Whereas in Washington, there's the whole, everything that happened after the game at the strip club and all that has, not necessarily a whole lot to do with the game he played itself. It does, but it doesn't. It shows where his head's at. But but the big thing was, he plays, he throws for 300 yards, they lose, but he's like, I had a 300-yard game, blah blah blah. It's not my fault. On the flip side of things, when last year when Case Keenum was was the quarterback for him, that they weren't going with Haskins. You didn't see Dwayne Haskins anywhere near Case Keenum when he came off the field, whereas it doesn't matter who the Dolphins quarterback is. Whoever trots off the field, the backup quarterback that's on the bench is right next to him, like, hey, what'd you see? They're helping each other out. So I think that eventually, this isn't sustainable long term, but it's working right now. And I don't think there'll be many other teams that go quarterback by committee. Bill Walsh couldn't even do it with Steve Young and Joe Montana. But I think this is just a little bit different. Like I said, I don't think it's going to be long term. I don't think it's sustainable. I think next year they're going to have to go with their guy. But for right now, if this is working for them and they win games, whether even if it is close, you're going to have to go with it, because like it or not, if you win, you're a playoff team.
What are they going to do now that Fitzpatrick's on the COVID-19 list, though?
I think this is kind of Tua's time to shine. Like, and here's the thing, if I, and we're going to talk about this later with previews, but if the Dolphins lose and the Colts win, then, this experiment with Tua and Ryan's over. But I think it'll be, yet to be seen, but, it's going to have to be Tua's team. But I think they're going to rely heavily on two guys that I was going to talk to here in a second, Myles Gaskins and then Ahmed, Salvin Ahmed, both Wisconsin, or not Wisconsin, but Washington Huskies, former Washington Huskies. And I think that they're going to have to rely on them. And I think the best friend of Tua in this upcoming game is probably going to be Mike Gesicki. He's a big body target. And I think that, like I said, he's a little, trigger shy. Well, when you have a target that big in the red zone, for example, if they elect to do play action pass, I think he's the perfect guy for Tua or any young quarterback. Shaheen's also 6'7", the former Bear, or 6'8", maybe. I mean, he's a big body guy, but I guess, what do you think? I mean, do you think, are you concerned, I guess, right now about Tua, not overreaction concerned, but just concerned that the fact that he isn't willing to take more shots downfield based off the fact that he did take plenty of them downfield in college?
Mm-hmm. I am concerned because the Dolphins' best player on offense, to me, in my opinion, is Devontae Parker. And when Tua's out there, you don't even know that Parker's in the game.
There's no chemistry at all.
There's no chemistry. He never throws him the ball. But right when Fitzpatrick comes in, all of a sudden you see Devontae Parker. tearing it up like we've seen in previous years. So that's the big concerning thing to me. I do like that he finally did get a connection with Mike Gesicki, because earlier on in the year he was not connecting with him either. So maybe it's just a slow process. But yeah, I think if they want to, turn heads in this league right now, he's got to involve his big receiver.
Any final thoughts, Clayton?
No, you guys nailed it. That was an excellent point, Isaac, about Devontae Parker. This is a guy we've seen kind of take off, come into his own, and for him to just take a hit, a step back. Ultimately, for me, I am a little concerned about Tua. I had reservations. I was one of the few that had reservations about Tua, just because, similar to Mac Jones this year, I said, what's he done? What adversity has he faced? I don't know how mentally tough this guy is. Now, granted, we've seen him come back from the hip injury. That's a separate issue. But being in Alabama, he's throwing the 4 first-round wide receivers. Fellas, I can go out and throw to 4 first-round wide receivers, and we probably win the SEC East.
And a second-round tight end.
Right.
A second-round tight end, first-round running back, and a great defense.
All kinds of toys. It's just, I look at that, and I'm just a little worried, especially after him making the comments of, I thought the NFL would be harder. Well, how easy do you think it is, bud? You didn't even throw for 100 yards your last game, and you got benched. How easy are we talking?
Well, I think all of us here could throw the check down. I think that's what he's talking.
I have some concerns, Is it the attitude that's getting in the way? Is the hype that was built up? Because there were some people that said Tua over Burrow. And you know what? Tua's not better than Herbert right now. We're having a conversation of Herbert or Burrow right now. And Burrow's not here to defend himself because he's hurt. So there's a lot of things you could go into the offseason with right now, and this is a big game for Tua, like you and Isaac both said.
Sounds good. Well, if you think we got anything wrong, don't be afraid to let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, turn on notification bells, and thanks for tuning into the Coach's Corner. We'll see you next week.